Now, the allure of playing professional rugby and hopefully wearing the famous green and gold is a dream that knows no race or class lines. Many have lived those dreams through succeeding in school systems that keep producing many talented rugby players every single year. For some, however, the anxiety of those opportunities passing them by is too great, and sometimes they resort to dangerous territories like steroids. To help us unpack this conversation, we are joined in studio by Edgar, who played his rugby, started his rugby career in school sports, but is now at the Bulls. Edgar, thank you for joining us on Sports Live. So let's chat about that. First of all, what is the pressure of rugby players, especially them and their families, into securing those professional contracts? For some, at an age as young as 16 years old.
In South Africa, from the age of about 13 to all the way to 18, everyone, almost 500,000 kids are all trying to get a professional contract into South Africa, where there can only be almost 88 players in the South African landscape for professional contracts, and everyone is trying to get that 500,000 into 88 numbers, so everyone is fighting to get into those spots.
Yeah, and so the pressure that comes with that, as I mentioned in that introduction, like there's a doping culture in South Africa. Why do you believe a lot of these kids at such a young age fall into those traps?
It's also pressure from the parents as well. There's also pressure from environment. There's also social media aspect as well, where they feel pressured that they have to make it, they have to be better than their friends, they have to be better than everyone else, and make sure that they try get in and be the next Siya Kolisi, Lucanio, not understanding that there's a pathway, there's a process as well to all those things.
Yeah, is it also not because we're obsessed with size in this country?
No, we definitely are obsessed with size in a way, because generally most South African population is generally on the larger scale than what our counterparts in the rest of the world are.
Yeah, but also our rugby, we are known. There was a time when a 64 kg scrum half was accommodated, a 92 kg forward was also accommodated in the team. But nowadays, if you weigh under 70 and you're at school at that, it's almost looked down upon. Why is that?
No, the school sport is gone huge in South Africa as well. I mean, it's on TV every single weekend. There's money being pumped into schools. Some of the players are getting paid per month to be in school sports. So you definitely can understand the pressure that they have to. They're fighting for bursaries. They're fighting to get into universities. So there definitely is a lot of pressures to be successful.
Yeah, but it's not all bad, though. We do have a working system in this country that feeds into a lot of unions. Why does the system work?
No, we've probably got the most outstanding system probably in the world. It's the jealousy. It's the muse of every single country. Every single country in the world would love to be like South Africa. I think one of our successes has been the number of schools that play really rugby, the number of schools that are really accommodated, that provide great support for young and upcoming. We've got great development system from under 16, under 18, under 19, and all the way up to the top to the Springboks.
Yeah, and, you know, I mean, unfortunately, not everybody can make it. As much as we have a great system of schools rugby, we know a lot. I'm sure you played with a lot of youngsters at your school who never make it to the rugby fields. You know, we never got to see those players. Why do a lot of these kids fall through the tracks?
No, I think unfortunately it's elite sport. It's high performance. It's not every single person. We're not playing for participation. Unfortunately, there's as you go up with age groups, as you go up with different levels, the participation factor leaves, and you can only select a certain number of elite, which range from an age of 21 to 35. So even though you might have been the best 18-year-old, in 3 years' time after under 21, you have to battle for a position with a guy that's 28, with a guy that's 35. So unfortunately, the waiting period, or sometimes you don't even get the opportunity because you might be fighting in the same age band between players between 21 and 35, and unfortunately you don't make it in between there.
Yeah, what advice do you have for those players? Because not everybody can make it. The pool is not that big. So what other avenues? As somebody who's lived, who've had a successful career in rugby, for those who can't make it, because not everybody's going to make it, unfortunately, what are the other avenues they can explore?
No, I think there's a lot of avenues in rugby. You can become an analyst, you can become a referee, you can become a coach, or you can become one of the support staff in terms of coaches, SNCs, the strength and conditioners, the nutritionist. You can become physiotherapist, you can become a masseuse to a sporting team, which still does give you the satisfaction of being part part of a winning team.
No, I'm sure it's not as satisfying as running out for your country, though, in green and gold, surely.
No, I mean, being a coach now, I still love it. I absolutely am satisfied to the peak
But
to be
you've
part
been
of
on
a
the
team.
other side.
I definitely
You get
have
to
been on
say
the other
that.
side, but it hasn't left me, even though I'm coaching right now.
Yeah, but also school sport, there's this ranking system. You know,
Yes.
it's perceived to be perceived negatively because a lot of these kids, in an ideal world, you want these kids to just enjoy rugby, but there's a ranking system. What are your thoughts on that, and why is it perceived negatively?
I think the ranking system makes South African sport what it is in terms of once we're as competitive, it brings a complete edge to know that you're the top 100 schools of South Africa and the top 20 of schools in South Africa. And it creates the high performance aspect of South Africa, also creates the levels. And so the understanding how much investment, how much sponsorship can go into the top 5, top 10 or top 20 schools. And unfortunately, if you're not in one of those, you probably can still make it, but the opportunities definitely are a little bit less.
These are kids. These are kids. They should be enjoying their sport.
No,
Why are we putting so much pressure on rankings, on children?
If every 12 years South African team wants to win a World Cup as South Africans, and we want to say rugby has the power to change lives, then definitely we need a ranking system in sports.
In schools, though.
100%.
This is why there's so much doping, because if I don't make it at a school, if my school is not ranked in that top 20, you know what I mean? The only way to stand out is to go to other avenues.
As long as there's pressure from a South African media and South African perspective and supporters for the Springboks to win the World Cup every 4 years, then we don't need the ranking system. But as long as there's pressure from the general public, from all of us, for the Springboks to win the World Cup, and we're all sad when they don't, then there absolutely has to be a ranking system for us to win a World Cup every 4 years.
Okay, you're quite passionate about it, and that's your story, and you're sticking to it. I mean, I don't have to agree, but that's fine. But let's talk about you personally. How's the coaching? How's the coaching been since you stopped? Playing?
No, it's been incredible. I've fortunate enough to have been part of, to start my coaching at the Vodacom Blue Bulls, really an incredible franchise to be part of, some really great brains. We've got our director of rugby, Jake White. We've got I've been coached under John Mitchell. I've been with various other coaches in South Africa that really stood the test of time. So it has its ups and downs. Sometimes you're not as successful as you want to, but generally as the Vodacom Blue Bulls, we generally are probably a bit more successful than most other teams. So I don't know what it looks like on the other side of that, but being in Pretoria, really happy to be there and really proud to be part of and grow some of the next talent, next generation of players in South Africa.
Let's talk about something that may be perceived as a failure. You were given the Currie Cup team to coach, but after 3 games, 4 games in the season, but you took charge of only 3. You were back to the juniors. Respond to that. Like, how was that for you?
I think for me, I was surprised to even get the job in the first place, to be honest with you. And I think even now, coming to this point, going back to juniors, I feel much more experienced. I take it as a learning curve. I'm 35 years old, probably the youngest coach in the Vodacom Blue Bulls history to ever coach the Currie Cup team. And for me to go to the juniors, to go back with that experience, I take it with full heart, and I take that experience going forward. And also to understand that there's much more to coaching a team than you as a coach being identified. You've got to understand the context of that. When you don't understand that you need a pre-season, if you don't have one of those, don't take the job. If you don't have the support, if your hands are particularly tied in different areas, don't take the job.
Where were your hands tied?
I think sometimes when you're in a franchise team, when you look at the team like the Sharks, or you look at a team like the Lions, when you look at a guy like Joy Mongala, you look at a guy like Mzwakhe Nkosi. When you're in a franchise team, you're always feeding the URC team. You're always feeding the team on top of you. So the selection of players is always changing every single weekend, from 2 to 3 players, from 4 to 5 players. If a player needs to get game time, he has to come to your team. If a player is coming back from injury, we had Johan Goosen coming back from an 8-month injury, has to come into your team. And meanwhile, you've got guys that you're trying to prepare and trying to build a team with, and it's not always as conducive as it is for building a team. So you're saying you were
not ready for the job?
No, I think I absolutely was ready for the job, but I think the context of the job at the time, I was not aware of the...
How great it will have to be.
No, what do you call it, of the spikes that might have been available, or the traps that might have been there in the job.
Would you go back?
I'm absolutely grateful for the opportunity. I would definitely, even if I knew what happened, I would still do it again, because I get back now and I get to coach under 19s, under 21s, and I'm a completely different coach. And I feel that I've got the favor of time, and I've got the favor of growing still as a young coach, that no one else could ever give me that experience at 35 years old.
Okay, well, thank you so much for looking into that. We hopefully will see, where this goes. You definitely will, somebody we need to look out for as a great coach. I've heard great things. Your players loved playing under you. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for you, at least not this time. Thank you so much. That's Edgar Marudlule, who is part of the Bulls system, coaching there, talking all things school sports, or schools rugby, I should say, and the dangers of the pressures that come with playing the sport in this country.